It's Sonic Fan 274 here, and did you know that Sonic had a rough transition in the
Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog, you really are the embodiment of peaking in high school, aren't you? The history of this blue spherical rapscallion is so overexposed that even mentioning that is redundant. And you've probably heard about the issues with a little known game called Sonic the Hedgehog? Not that one. Not that one either. Ah, that one. The discourse around Sonic the Hedgehog for the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3, or Sonic 06 as it's come to be known, has been so overstated and overanalyzed that making fun of how played out it is its own cliche. There isn't any corner of the internet you can go without people debating the quality of every game in its entire franchise since then. But where did all of this begin? How did the Sonic 06's bad review become such a joke and a cliche? And I'm not sure if many people can name any of the supposed infamous 06 reviews off the top of their heads. Well, I decided to take a deep dive into the earliest Sonic content that YouTube has to offer in order to find the answer for myself. You see, there is a little known YouTube feature where after what you're trying to search, if you type before, then a year, it will filter out the results to anything within the given time frame. I love this feature of YouTube. Exploring junky old YouTube content from yesteryear is one of my favorite pastimes on this site. Some of the stuff you can find is absolutely magnificent, particularly when it comes to Sonic the Hedgehog related videos. Like how you can find trailers for games like Sonic Riders and Shoutouts the Hedgehog, which make me age just looking at them. Or you can find stuff that was surprisingly ahead of its time, like this video titled Sonic Gay Riders. I know, but hear me out. It's a video from 2006 that has an eerily strong resemblance to the Snapcube fandubs of Sonic games that would gain prominence 12 years later.
Huh? Hey, you broke my windows! You broke my dad's windows!
Whoa! I love stealing shit. Great day.
Hey, I love stealing shit too.
Pretty wild. Although this video is from 2006, and with that knowledge, as you could expect, it isn't exactly the most thought out parody video. Culture was a very different 18 years ago, especially when it comes to opinions towards the LGBT community.
Is that your...
It's your uncle.
Oh, he's a f***.
And it does contain some homophobic slurs, so tread lightly. People also hated Sonic Heroes a lot back then, for some reason.
Whee! Sonic Heroes! Man, that hedgehog is gay!
Man, this video sucks! Naturally, we also can't forget about the classic Sonic is bad skits and reviews from back in the day, a staple as old as time. Let's take the video Sonic Horror, for example. Our main character walks into his room where he is greeted by a Sonic plushie, who confronts him about how he doesn't like the newest Sonic game.
I heard you were saying some bad things about my newest game.
I'm sure you've never seen this trope in a Sonic review before. And what could this new game possibly be? I'm sure you can't guess.
Oh, you mean this?
Sonic Heroes? Huh? Yeah, despite the fact that this video resembles your typical Sonic 06 bad format, it was actually released on November 6th, 2005, over a year before the infamous installment in the series. So in that regard, this video is actually pretty ahead of its time when you think about it. Although that Sonic Heroes hate will not go ignored. I don't care if it's the PS2 version, that opinion is just wrong. The most uncanny aspect of the video by far is how close it resembles the Sonic.exe creepypasta. Since the main character's name is Kyle,
Hello there, Kyle.
there is the evil Sonic plushie, and spoiler alert, but it doesn't end well for Kyle. The part that makes this so wild for me is that the Sonic.exe story didn't get published until August 9th, 2011, almost 6 years later. I almost wonder if the writer had drawn influence from this video, since it does have 43,000 views, which would be really interesting if true. Tangent aside, I decided to use the power of the before year search function to look through the history of Sonic 06 reviews on the internet, because somebody had to be the first to start this trend, otherwise I don't see how it could become such a meme these days. I decided for the sake of both time and my sanity that I'm not going to cover literally every single review of this game on the internet, and I only searched up until 2008, since I feel like that's plenty of time for this game's status to become fairly well known to the internet at large. So keep in mind that there is a chance that I missed a particularly good one along the way, but I felt that this was necessary in order to keep this from becoming incredibly repetitive. And one last disclaimer, don't harass anyone mentioned in this video. This video may end up being fairly mean-spirited to some amateur YouTube creators of the past, and to some degree I do feel like I'm punching down just by making this video, but this is all in good fun and isn't meant to be an attack on anyone. I just like indulging in some nostalgic old video game critiques. Also, the creators of these are all adults now, so they likely don't even remember creating these at all. But if any of you end up finding this video and somehow get mad at me, learn to take a joke?
Leave me alone.
it would only make sense that we start with the first ever review uploaded to YouTube on December 15th, 2006, almost a month after the game launched. Despite that fact, it could be considered cheating to have this one on the list, since it is actually a re-upload from kidconfidence.com, which is no longer an active URL, so you probably shouldn't try to go there. The whole point of the channel, and by extension the website, was to be a resource for parents to check and see if the new, latest, and greatest games will rot little Timmy's brain.
It's very likely that your child knows something about this game, which makes it even more important for you to know a little bit more.
I think that's a fairly good cause, even if it gives me weird helicopter parent vibes. In this case, however, it seems like the site wasn't ever particularly successful and ended up pivoting away from reviews and towards purely journalism before eventually getting abandoned in 2008. So I guess never mind. Getting into the video itself, the vibe is completely off from the get-go. I don't want to be mean when I say this, but you can tell that the person narrating this video doesn't have the best camera presence.
Sonic's 15th anniversary is intended to revive the franchise and make use of the third generation gaming consoles.
One, what do you mean by the third generation of game consoles? It was the 7th. Not even close. And two, her delivery comes across as if they're being held at gunpoint. It just makes the video a little bit of an eerie experience throughout. I guess we can't really blame her considering the game that she was subjected to. Speaking of which, the game is being ranked based on a few distinct categories: gameplay, multiplayer, replay value, and the most entertaining to me personally, educational value, which she had given a 5 out of 10. And I disagree with this rating. Sonic 06 has a lot of educational value. Playing it teaches you to never trust Sega ever again.
This latest installment of Sonic the Hedgehog proves that next generation graphics do not make up for unpolished gameplay.
This review is actually fairly solid for the time, despite the off-kilter voice delivery. The actual points and presentation are pretty reasonable for what it's trying to achieve, so this one gets a pass from me. The overall score this game got was split into 4 categories, so I'll just round them up to simplify things. Meaning the game received a 5.8 out of 10, which is honestly higher than I expected. Although that 6 out of 10 for the gameplay is quite generous, I will say. Alright, moving on forward to 2007, I want to cover a genre of reviews that you'd find quite commonly back in the day. The pointing a camera at a TV and rambling type video. The kind with no real structure, so they just ramble on for 5 minutes about nothing and then upload the contents to their YouTube channel.
I've never made a review in this kind of style before, so I couldn't tell you anything about them from personal experience. Who put this here?
I decided to lump a couple of these together, just because if I talked about these on their own, they would be extremely boring, so I think it's best if we just got these all out of the way. Like, what do you expect me to say about this review?
We're reviewing this game, as you can see.
Sonic Next Gen.
Also known as...
I mean, it's nice to see that Game Boy Advance video is making a comeback, but it doesn't make for an interesting review to really dissect, since the structure is going to be essentially non-existent. But hey, why not do it anyway, since these videos are historically significant, since it does give us a look back into the game's reception from when it first released. Although even then, some of the conversations that the supposed reviewers can get into can be really strange.
Anyway, we're in a battle, so we're both trying to get to the finish line as fast as we can, but I am much faster. So Peter's just gonna have to suck me off.
Yeah, conversations like that. Speed, awesome gameplay, unique style? Nah, check another review. This is Sonic the Hedgehog for the Xbox 360. I understand that's fun to rag on these old videos, but in all seriousness, what do you want me to say about these really? Calling these reviews is pretty generous by most standards. For example, they tend to repeat themselves a lot.
I mean, look, and the loading time is so long.
As you can see, the loading times is one big problem.
Here's another 5-minute loading screen.
500 minutes.
Yeah.
But since it's all filmed in one take, the jokes tend to fall very flat. Also, considering the fact that this is from 2007, you know, it's aged really well.
If I tell you to move closer to the mic one more time, I'm going to slit your wrist with my cock.
I see.
And they attempt to have this really forced, edgy gamer type persona throughout.
It looks pretty, but when the box is this pretty, there's never usually a whole lot inside.
Sick burn?
That being said, this is a review, so they had to give it a score.
I give this game 3 out of 50 billion.
Well, that's certainly low, but we do have a second score. The other video by comparison is actually a fairly solid review by 2007 standards. Sure, it's being recorded by a plastic fork, but they cover multiple different characters' playstyles. They discuss both good and bad aspects of the game. They even show footage of more than one level, which might not sound significant on its own, but you'd be surprised. You even get some spicy Sonic drama.
Plus it had the 4Kids voices, didn't it?
Of course, the 4Kids voices is another thing that made me hate this game. Well, not hate this game, I still like it a little bit, but you know. Jason Griffith just sounds so awful. I'm glad you're below the TV, Flash. Flash!
What?
Look.
Sorry.
This is honestly a pretty well-rounded video, all things considered, which also means I have less to talk about. That being said, the video feels like it drags on forever. It's 10 minutes long, but it will feel like 25 minutes by the time you finish watching it. Now, how about that score?
Personally, I think this game isn't really worth the money. It's not even worth the money, so I'll avoid it. See you guys.
That's not a score. Oh well, I guess they're going with the Wii viewer style of game scoring.
This should go without saying, but do not rent this game. It's awful.
What am I even supposed to do with this? I guess the game will get a worth no money out of 10, so take that as you will. Alright, for the final video of the year, we have this video made by Rolling Rock Films, titled Review of Sonic the Hedgehog, which means this might end up being a normal review after all. Let's take a listen.
First, we'll start off with some bad, then some good. First, a bad thing. Yeah. The fucking loading times were like super long. I mean, like one person would say a line saying, "Hey, yeah, go do this shit." Then it would start loading up again, and then it would like, you'd finally be able to do a level. It's like a load. I swear to God. I mean, there was a lot of loading. That's all I can say is that there was so much loading, it took the fun out of the game.
Alright, before we continue, I have two notes. This video contains a lot of fucking swearing and shit, which means that the name Rolling Rock Films is most definitely a reference to another popular video game personality of the time, who drank Rolling Rock as a bit of a gag. Yeah, you know, the irate gamer. I love that guy. Love that. Can't get enough of it. Wait, does that make this the first AVGN clone to review Sonic 06? That's worth thinking about. Then note number 2, this video has no editing. It's literally just an image of the game case slapped into presumably Movie Maker, meaning in order to make this actually watchable, we just have to, there we go, better. Alright, onto the actual review itself. The main criticisms toward this game is that there is too much loading.
It took the fun out of the game.
You play as Sonic's friends too much?
Yeah, it's called Sonic the Hedgehog, not Sonic and all of his fucking friends.
In ever eye-opening critiques.
It was a pretty good attempt for saying, yeah, let's make Sonic more lifelike. I mean, hey, what the fuck? He's supposed to be a cartoon character, not like some lifelike. They made him too lifelike.
That being said, despite the obvious angry gamer persona this person is clearly putting on, the positives they list are honestly pretty fair.
Tails? Who the fuck likes Tails?
Okay, maybe scratch that. But they like the level design, the story, and the depiction of Eggman. But at the same time, man, they talked a lot of trash. The review score must be abysmally low.
I give it like a 6.5. I would give it a 7, but like, I don't know. I guess because the replay value isn't that good. I mean, there really isn't that much shit to do. Okay, I guess I will give it a 7. I'll give it a 7 because of the fact that you can rewatch the previews. That's awesome. The cutscenes.
Oh, a 7? Just because you can watch the cutscenes? Alright then, I guess we're going with the Pokemon metric for scoring a game, but nonetheless, it's a 7. Overall, 2007 had the kind of reviews you would expect. Just a bunch of kids with websites or cheap camcorders just ranting about the new big game to hate on. Even if these aren't super in-depth, I was surprised by the score of the game still managing to maintain about a 6 on average. Even with that being said, there isn't any evil copies of the game, or any mention of a rough transition to 3D, so I don't think we've gone deep enough. Alright, so let's watch this next video.
Welcome to Sniler Reviews, and we're reviewing Sonic the Hedgehog for the Xbox 360. This is only a demo, so here it is.
This one is uniquely recorded, as you can tell. The first thing you notice is how to use the capture card. Yeah, that's what you notice first. Okay, I don't really want to harp on the audio balancing in this video for too long because it really feels like bullying, but it is easily the most memorable aspect. They're really trying to sell the angry reviewer thing, but they're just so low in the mix that it's hard to make out what's even being said.
I don't like that the narrator guy is so annoying, telling tells you what to do.
Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's actually criticize the contents of the review itself.
While this is only a demo,
press the
so
A button to perform a loading attack.
here it is.
Alright, so they're reviewing the game, but they only had the demo 2 years after the game released. Okay, a little late to the trend, but whatever. You don't necessarily need to beat the whole game in order to get your points across. What does bother me is that they choose to point out the game's controls to criticize them, like when they fall off the level near the beginning, then blame the camera for their own mistake.
Oh, there he goes. Because of that stupid camera.
Then they proceed to complain about the AI for being too easy since they killed this enemy after using the bounce bracelet a few times, which is probably fair but a bit nitpicky, not to mention when they fall off a second time plus ratio. They say the hit system doesn't say what to do when it clearly says it on the screen. What? You couldn't hear me? Sorry about that. Let's just move on then. Well, all you need to know is that they gave the game a 4.5 out of 10, and their other videos have great audio as well.
Like, it's not something that you're going to need. Like, if you just want to waste some time, then you should just get this.
Alright, so live in the local state penitentiary, we have the next review of this bunch. And the first one to actually show their face in a review, which makes this one significant. Just as significant as the fan noise in the background.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Let me tell you right now.
That's all neat, but as for a significant addition to the 06 review compendium, they also chose to use the demo version of 06 for this video. The economy crash must have already done a number by this point. Aside from that, I don't know, his camera's pretty good.
I think this is going too fast for my camera, and this is a pretty good camera right here.
What makes this one interesting isn't as much the actual review itself, it's more so that this is the first review I could find that acknowledges the game's reputation as being bad from the get-go.
Now, if you know what this review is named, then you know I'm going to give it a pretty bad score. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is the worst game I have ever played.
As a result, this doesn't really feel like a normal review, but instead just a video taking advantage of the game's reputation in order to draw in viewers, which means that we are getting closer to this game's status as a meme, with the angry reviewers becoming more commonplace within the subgenre. I will have to deduct points, however, for putting the score in the description rather than within the video itself. The inklings of the exaggerated hatred towards this game begin to take form, so we can move on to the next video. That's the early YouTube crust I expect. The intro that's just random gameplay footage with a random video game song playing, and despite the video only being 3 minutes, the intro takes up 36 whole seconds. Also, Sonic Unleashed had almost released by this point, so 06 is starting to fade in relevance with the majority of the gaming community. Alright, so this is Video Game Lover 01's video, or more accurately, Wii Sonic 217's video since I do all the narration on it, or I guess it's Wii Sonic 17 as they're credited, so it does kind of come across like someone else's video being uploaded on this channel.
Hi, I'm Greg Cubed, and I'm here today with my friend Ninja Star Compass. I don't know if you've ever heard of him before, but yeah, today we're going to be reviewing this review of Sonic 06.
I just want to say, it does have its flaws, the loading screens, and there are glitches, but I like the glitches. They are very humorous, and I don't know what else to say, it's just a good game.
It's a very descriptive review and is suspiciously positive, even going as far as to give the game an 8 out of 10.
And I personally would give it an 8. Thank you.
At least until his inner mid-2000s Sonic fan comes out, that is.
But I really dislike Jason Griffith. Bring Ryan Drummond back.
Yeah, this is from the time period before Roger Craig Smith took over as Sonic, so hardcore fans didn't realize the blessings that they still had. I don't know, he pretty much just spent 5 minutes saying a whole lot of nothing. Well, back to you, Ninja.
The next one begins with yet another video game intro graphic, which shows Mario and Sonic at the Olympic— oh wait, the video already started. This one gives very unique vibes, since it's pretty clear that this was just a group of friends vibing rather than an attempt at a formal review. In fact, you sort of get the feeling that they were just hanging out and decided to make a YouTube video on a complete whim. There's a lot of skits and attempts at humor, but as you would imagine, it's not very well put together.
Yeah, as you can see, the camera is a little sketchy. It's kind of hard to make out while he's running so very fast. So,
we're cutting now.
And at this point, the game's negative legacy seemed pretty set in stone, and they talk as if you should already be well aware of the game's many glitches and camera problems, almost like it's already starting to become a bit of a dead horse.
And today we're going to be reviewing a game known as Sonic the Hedgehog. It is truly a horrible game. I have seen it played before, it really is an abomination.
Still, you kinda get the vibe that they don't really have any strong opinions on the game outside of what they've read from other people online, ending with them giving the game a 2.5 out of 5.
That is why we finally came to a 2.5 out of 5.
Everything so far has been kind of a mixed bag, just a handful of oddities in the sea of gaming YouTube's past, but as interesting as I find those, I think this is starting to get a bit redundant. We get it, the video is crusty and old, haha, wow, wacky. I think it's time that we take this to the next level, and explore one more review that those of you watching might have heard before.
The Gamedude.
Gamedude, or Alexander4488, is one very interesting individual, to put it mildly. His channel is essentially just, we have AVGN at home, everything down to the structure, the delivery, and the jokes were pretty much fully ripped off from James Rolfe shamelessly, and sometimes quite literally stolen verbatim.
It's like you touch the top of the building, you die, you touch the ceiling, you die, you touch the floor, you die, too far to the right, you die, too far to the left, you die, you die, you die, you die, 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 die.
If you stay too close to the edges, you die. If you jump too early, you die. If you jump too late, you die. And because you can only jump straight, if you jump at the wrong angle, you die. You will die again and again and again and again and again. I can't take it anymore.
But that's not really what Gamedude is known for to the wider internet. In fact, the story of this gamer with an attitude is absolutely wild and would take far too much time to explain and is outside the scope of this video. If you're really curious, there is a video by OK Fine Be That Way that covers the story in detail, which I would personally recommend, but to sum his crimes up quickly, he aggressively marketed his videos shamelessly across YouTube, stalked his ex-girlfriend, made a 2-hour video about their relationship told entirely through dinosaur tours, and when the authorities got involved, nothing happened. But none of that is really important to this video. All that matters is that Gamedude had a strong opinion on a particular blue hedgehog.
Sonic losers.
More Sonic Heroes hate again? I know he was a criminal, but his Sonic opinion should have gotten him in jail. But alright, enough build up, let's just talk about the review itself, and let's begin with the positives. Compared to the other reviews we've covered so far, this one is much better put together, with relatively good editing for 2008 standards, which makes sense as he was attending a film school at the time. The humor, despite it being mainly diet AVGN one-liners, still managed to make me laugh a few times, even if unintentionally.
It's like riding a unicycle wearing a sumo suit moving a horse on a baby stroller through a bunch of winding hills.
Plus, there are many more comparisons between this game and previous entries in the series in order to strengthen his criticisms.
Now, think for a moment. What should Sonic be like? This or this? Do you feel like you're looking at a Sonic game? No, you don't.
But the most important one of them all, he actually covers several levels of the game and not just a demo. That might not seem like much, but sometimes you need to appreciate the smaller victories in life. Which brings us to the parts of the review that I take issue with. First of all, remember what I said at the beginning of this video about them not aging well? Gamedude is no exception to that. One of the biggest issues that AVGN copycats ran into is their use of vulgar language. Not the swearing itself, but more so how it was applied when it came to criticizing certain aspects of the game. For example, this joke.
The missions aren't they're balls.
It's just pointlessly edgy, and the use of the R slur just kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. Even ignoring that, some of his criticisms just don't really make sense in general, like when he complained about Tails using fake rings to attack enemies, leading to this comment.
He can only attack by throwing dummy ring bombs. It's so stupid. Imagine if Mario could only attack by throwing dummy coin bombs.
Like, what does that even mean? It objectively makes no sense. But the best moment by far is when he says that he'd rather get lost in Antarctica, then proceeds to show 32 whole seconds of footage of penguins walking around, in full, for an uncomfortably long amount of time. But even despite all of that, this is still one of the best videos we've seen today. It is a treat to watch just how over the top and ridiculous Gamedude's sense of humor is. Plus, his ability to deconstruct the elements behind what makes the game fail is still much better than his peers, despite the pointless edginess. Although, in my opinion, most of what he has to say in this video
sucks more than a vacuum.
And to end this off, he gives the game a whopping out of 10. Alright, now that we've covered Gamedude of all people, I think we've gone over enough of these videos to notice a bit of a trend. There is a pretty clear difference in tone between the reviews close to when the game launched to those made much later.
Sonic Next Gen was a good game, damn it, regardless of what reviews said.
I would rather be punched in the face 500 times
rather than playing this game for the PS3 and Xbox 360 called Sonic the Hedgehog.
And I could just end the video here. We figured out where Sonic reviews have gone wrong. Yay us. But there is still one burning question in the back of my brain that needs to be answered. How did it go from a tired trend of a bygone era to a meme that permeates the discourse surrounding the franchise to this day? Because as sad as it is to say, I couldn't find a single review of this game that had an evil clone of the reviewer or even said rough transition to 3D even once. So I think I need to change my methods in order to figure out this mystery. And after reaching out to whoever I could find, I managed to interview 2 creators who had made Sonic 06 reviews at the time, who helped give me insight as to why they had personally made reviews on the game when they did, and I asked them whether or not their opinion of the game has changed after all these years. So a huge thanks to tylertropes and Maniac Reviews for lending me some of their time to speak with me about their decade-old videos. Yeah. Alright, I was gonna ask next, I'm kind of trying to get like for my video, I'm trying to I don't know, kind of piece together what caused, Sonic 06 reviews to kind of change in the way they did over time. So my next question is, who were like your main reviewing influences at the time?
At the time, like, I could easily tell, like, I was really into, like, Nostalgia Critic, Angry Video Game Nerd. I'd say those 2 were, like, my biggest inspirations, and I feel like especially those early reviews, they kind of have that style, because even like I remember back in high school, I always thought it was easier to write if you don't like something, because it's easier to put into words why something is bad or why you don't like it versus why you enjoy something.
For me, like a lot of people during the time of like the late 2000s, I was very much inspired by James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd, because it was for me, it was like revolutionary, because I had never seen anyone talk about retro video games or just really gaming in general in a way that really spoke to me, because video game content was just it was really scarce. Like, it was still in the early stages of kind of developing into the culture it's become today. Yeah, there was the second guy named Urinating Tree who used to do these videos called Fat Man Judges. He just basically took on the persona of just some dude that played old Sega Genesis games, and he would just, like many angry viewers at the time, just scream into the microphone. Sorry.
Come on, get the f*** back here, you damn birds! Who am I supposed to be, Noah?
Around the time of, around 2010, when the video first came out, I was in high school, and I had just started learning how to edit. Like, doing machinimas and the reviews were how I taught myself how to edit. I would go into every video more so with I want to learn this editing trick, and then I would write a whole script around it. But that was usually on the machinima side, because at the time I was doing a brawl machinima called Sonic's Redemption. It was very time-consuming, plotting out the story, writing out the script, sending it out to people, and getting all of their lines in order. And I would have to wait for all of that to start. So the reviews were actually easier because it was all focused on me. I already had everything set up to record. Because half the reason I decided to do Sonic 06, at the time of doing Sonic 06, I was in the middle of reviewing every Sonic the Hedgehog, and I had just finished Halo 3 machinima, so my setup was already set from my Xbox 360, so I figured, why not just record the whole game?
Oh, Sonic 06. So, I had decided to tackle it because I had seen other people review it, and it seemed really terrible, and the only experience I had with the game is I had played a demo at GameStop, and I thought, this seems alright, this seems okay. I decided I'll go actually play the game, so I got the PS3 version from my local library, and I played it, and I'm just like, oh no, this is terrible. Like, this is really, really bad. Like, everything is slow, and everything's broken. It was just, I wouldn't say it was one of the most buggy games or glitchy games I've ever played, but it was definitely up there being why did someone think this was a good idea to release a game like this in this state and not fix any of these problems? It was just that sort of thing. I was like, I basically just kind of slightly jumped in on the bandwagon of everyone talking about Sonic 06, but I did it just at the tail end before it was becoming like, oh good, can we just stop talking about Sonic 06? But I got there just in the nick of time before it stopped being cool to do, I guess.
Obviously, every review at the time was like, the voice acting is bad. Jason Griffith ruined my entire I assumed, but I figured I'd ask. How has your opinion changed on the voice cast now that they've all been recast for like a decade?
Genuinely, that was one of the big things that I would completely change in that review, because like they were doing the anime Sonic X.
Yeah.
And, like they did that. And so they had the experience under their belt. And you can tell that there's like a change in direction with the way that they were told to voice the characters in Sonic X versus the games. I feel like the game characters have, like, especially like, I think a good example is Game Sonic.
Yeah.
Game Sonic has a lot more in-your-face attitude versus his portrayal in Sonic X, who is supposed to, like, his cool attitude is more so laid back, not caring, pretending not, like, just kind of being off in the corner, being too cool for this. Kind of what people, like, associate with Shadow now, if you kind of...
Yeah.
Like, if you kind of see that. So, like, you can tell, I feel like it took them a little while to gain their footing in the, in the game space, especially since it's a different medium and the way that you have to portray those characters is a bit different. Like, I think it's more so the troubled production, more like the rush production of them being like, we got the take, move on, next.
Yeah.
Versus, versus their ability. Because, again, I think they do an okay job.
You know how these days, like, reviewing Sonic 06 is kind of like a meme and an in-joke, where it's like, haha, bad Sonic 06 review. Was that effect happening at all back in, like, 2009-ish when you made your video? Was that already happening?
I don't think any of that was happening. I think I have heard to some degree the memification of people reviewing Sonic 06, because I came in around the time, like, just about the point where it was anyone who has already played the game and has reviewed it, as like everything that needed to be said about it had already been said. I kind of just jumped on that bandwagon, but not at the point where it was annoying. I managed to sneak my way into the part where it was still relevant. But yeah, beyond that, I haven't heard much about it beyond that.
I know I didn't do the evil Leo forces me to do it, but I gave Sonic Adventure 2 of all things a personality in my review of it. I
noticed.
But like I just remember going back, I remember like I had bought gun props for a short film that I was working on at the time, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna need to go in with some protection if I'm going to review Sonic 06, and I'm honestly kind of glad that I think Sonic 06 was kind of the beginning of me moving away from the angry persona, especially since Sonic Color, the next games were Sonic Unleashed, Colors, and with me having a general positive vibe about the other games, I think that I started coming into my own style, ironically enough, right after the Sonic 06 review, where I wasn't just trying to be James Rolfe.
Do you still think Sonic 06 is the worst Sonic game ever made?
On a technical level, I will say yes. On a strictly technical level, I think it is the most unfinished game that has been released in that franchise, arguably next to Sonic Boom.
Yeah.
But at least Sonic Boom they patched. But do I think it's the worst? No.
I mean, honestly, I don't think the franchise, as much as people like to say oh, the franchise is doomed, destroyed, it's never really ever hit a place where it's been completely people ruined to the point of no return, because in case no one's noticed, they're still making Sonic games. So despite how bad some of these other games have been, it really hasn't affected their the sales as much as people think there are. Because people, it's always been a common joke on the internet for as long as I've been online, where they say Sonic was never good, or Sonic jumped to 3Ds, everything went downhill from there. It's no, it didn't. I feel like a lot of the dunking on Sonic has just been exaggerated, mostly because people are either doing it ironically, because most of them are teens, or they're just doing it because that was the hip thing to do at the time. But no, I honestly think Sonic's always been in a fairly good place. Like, you know, 06 definitely, I would say was hitting it hit a downward spiral where it's like it's the 15th anniversary, and what did we get? We got a overly ambitious rushed 3D platformer, and then a poorly done Game Boy Advance port of the original Sonic. So it's like, well, we're gonna have to make up for this in a few years.
Because I kind of have this philosophy about media that I kind of came into as I was like more so in college and matured a lot more as a reviewer, as a person. It's again, you're allowed to like bad things.
Yeah.
And I think that the worst thing a piece of media can be isn't bad. I think it's boring.
I agree.
Like, I think worse Sonic games have come out simply because they are competently made. They are by the books, done.
Yeah.
Like, I will, like I know I, like, praised it before, but I think I have more fun revisiting Sonic 06 than I do Sonic Forces.
Yeah.
Because despite what everybody says, I play Sonic 06 and I burst into tears laughing because I hit a box at the wrong angle and suddenly the game thinks I maxed out the speed counter and shot me through an invisible wall.
That
like,
sounds about right.
It's so much fun every time to re-experience it. So again, technical level, the worst game. But it is such a blast to play.
Yeah. Once again, I'd like to extend my thanks to tylertropes and Maniac Reviews for their time. I didn't want this section of the video to drag on too long, so if you're interested, I'll be uploading the full interviews on my second channel where we go into much more detail about the inner workings of Sonic 06. But now that we've gone over that, I think the best way to figure out what caused this shift in opinion is to dissect each individual element of the Sonic 06 review meme and explain what may have possibly linked all of them to our favorite Xbox 360 title. Let's start with probably the easiest one to figure out an answer for:
Sonic's rough transition to 3D.
It's a line that's iconic, a bold statement that aims to critique the inconsistent quality of Sonic's game output after the Sega Saturn had hit the market in the late 90s, and is also a statement that's quite quotable.
Happy Halloween. Did you know Sonic had a rough transition?
What began as a somewhat odd jab at the franchise in an old GameSpot review of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle has, at this point, become a meme that has plagued the Sonic fanbase for decades. I'm unable to really pin down what review in particular started this, but whenever a negatively received game in this series is released, more than likely at least one major reviewing site has coined a lovely little phrase:
Sonic hasn't had the best time since making the transition to 3D.
And every time they immediately get clowned on by the entire community. So by this point, it's become an instant red flag that the person reviewing a game in the Sonic franchise probably has no clue what they're talking about. And there are many examples of this happening.
Sonic has especially struggled when it's come to his forays into 3D environments.
And although the fact that his transition to 3D was far less graceful than Mario's was definitely a factor.
So even if its link to Sonic 06 itself may be mostly theoretical, the infamy of how played out and overused the phrase is, in my opinion, is more than enough reason as to how it ended up as part of the reviewing template.
Your evil clone forces you to review the game.
What's the point in reviewing Sonic 06 long after it had been released? Well, whatever reason is there besides being forced to review it for your internet review by your evil clone? Every single meme template and parody video I could find on this topic always included this detail. And to be honest, I looked very extensively to find any Sonic 06 review that included an evil side character or anything of the sort, and I found nothing! This haunted my very being for months. It wasn't until I talked to Maniac Reviews about it that I came to a somewhat logical conclusion.
Yeah, I don't know. I do feel like the whole Sonic 06 review meme thing, I feel like it mainly stemmed from the fact that they became so formulaic. I feel like that happened mainly just because of how stale the reviews were at the time, combined with, like, you know, those tropes did exist, you know, back in the day. Like the whole evil game became the life and, you know, ruined my day or something. You know, I feel like those kind of just combined in people's brains because they were from the exact same era, which kind of formulated the whole, you know, because Sonic 06 is one of, like, you know, the more famous bad games. Like, it is pretty well known for that reason. So I feel like all those got kind of congealed into one ball, which is the modern Sonic 06 review meme.
2013.
This one isn't as much about the template itself, but more so the timing of the meme existing at all.
Way past cool, huh?
Now sure, obviously, it could be argued that the series was still somewhat recovering from the damage that the game's reputation had caused for a good while after the game released, but that still doesn't explain the specifically old school reviewing style that's being mocked here. Well, one of the meme templates I found gave me a tiny little hint in the corner. The file name 2013.jpg for the image used. What was so significant about the year 2013 when it came to Sonic 06? Well, for one, the image did originate from the James and Mike Monday's video covering the game, which did release in 2013. But when I decided to bring back the trusty before and after, to narrow down the YouTube search to show only 2013 videos, I noticed something very interesting. I couldn't find many reviews at all, but what I did find is that the search feed was filled to the brim with Game Grumps videos, in specific the over 100 part Let's Play that the Game Grumps did on Sonic 06. I also saw fan animations of said Let's Play and compilations. And then it finally hit me. Is it possible that this Let's Play revived interest in Sonic 06, sparking a renewed sense of hatred towards this game that quickly became redundant?
Sonic is awesome, but this isn't Sonic!
Since all there is to say about the game had already been run into the ground half a decade earlier, which then led to the creation of a meme that critiqued how overexposed the game had become in Sonic discourse, despite the series having had a comeback with Sonic Generations. Well, I can't say it was exactly what happened, but considering how interest in the search term Sonic 06 had a large spike in early 2013, which was when the Let's Play was a third done, I'll just say it's a strong hunch. Even without that, a meme like this honestly would have formed regardless of whether or not the Let's Play was made. For roughly 2 decades, Sonic's reputation had been very all over the place for both justifiable and somewhat petty reasons. And gaming journalism has been an utter joke for almost as long, so finding an onslaught of reviewers having bad Sonic opinions isn't exactly hard. What I think made these old reviews prime material for mockery was the fact that they were oftentimes made by teenagers, who tend to have very exaggerated and juvenile personalities. So obviously the critiques of an overly hated upon Sonic the Hedgehog game were going to be very over the top and lack detail. Because by that point, Sonic 06 wasn't just a bad entry in the franchise, it was
a disgrace to the Hedgehog's legacy.
So where do we go from here? I tallied up all of the scores that we went over from the reviews, and they averaged at a 4.6 out of 10, meaning that Sonic 06 is no longer the lowest rated Sonic game. And what do we do with this information? I don't know. As an onlooker, I wish I could go back in time and be in the shoes of someone who's made a video like this, because maybe then I could truly understand the scene. Wait, that gives me an idea. I can make my own Sonic review and show all of you how it's done, yeah. But I can't use the exact same tired old tropes that have gone old by this point. I need my own unique gimmick to stand out. Wait, I've got just the thing.
So broken after his wife left, no player 2 on this dragon quest. He threw out all of his multi-taps, and the games his wife left him are all crap. She took his Tetris and Puyo and left him with an old 3DO. Now he's stuck lonely in middle age, and all he's got is Engage. He's the engaged gamer, and the games he's got couldn't be lamer. He's enraged, no longer engaged, and he's middle-aged. He just wants to see the kids.
It's Sonic Fan 274 here, and did you know that Sonic had a rough transition in the free...